Okay, this is a video about two of my cats. Okay, and this piece of shit Azus. I guess it's not high definition. I thought they're supposed to be high definition, but I guess they're not, because it always looks blurry. The template. Okay, it says, did aliens murder two of my cats? 2010 and 2010 and 1997. Did the aliens murder two of my cats? 2010 and 1997 in 3D. Paddy and Blacky. Okay, and that's Paddy and that's Blacky. Did they answer my call in the physical as opposed to astral? Did they go off my thoughts? Yeah, I don't know. I thought this is supposed to be high definition, but I guess not. Okay, so like in 1997, let's see here. Okay, well actually, see, I'll back it up about, let's see, 22, 3 years before that. So I'll back it up about 3 years before that, and I was kind of living in this little apartment off and on, and this cat kept coming around, and finally I think I saw him for at least a year or longer, and finally I kept letting him come into the apartment, and then I moved back home. I finally decided to keep him at I decided he was my cat when I was at the apartment, and then when I moved back home, I brought him with me. Yeah, he was an awesome cat, man. He was a non-alpha. He was a really sweetie. He wasn't a mean one. He was a non-alpha male. And, so anyway, so when I was at the apartment, when I let him in, off and on, that was like 3 years previous to 1997. I made some refried beans, and back then they did put lard. As far as I remember, they did put lard in the not black eyed peas. They put lard in the refried beans. So I was making refried beans on the stove, and then Blacky, next thing I know, like 20 minutes later, Blacky jumped up on the stove and he ate all the the refried beans. He ate all the refried beans, and I remember having thoughts back then like, oh my god, he ate all that lard. You know how lard is supposed to be bad for your heart and stuff? And, so he ate all that, lard, you know what I'm saying? Because back then they did put lard in the refried beans. And now you can't even find any with lard. Like water. I don't even think you can find any with any kind of oil in it. But, I don't really eat much canned stuff anymore. But, yeah, so anyway, so I had those thoughts, I had those thoughts, like, all that lard could be bad for him, because you always hear people having heart attacks. Okay, so, the aliens, they always know, what you're thinking, and your worries, and your thoughts and stuff. And, there also is this thing called, what Nancy Leader said, answering the call. You can make intentional or unintentional calls to them, and the bad ones can show up and answer the call, or the good ones can show up and answer the call. And she is right about that. in my life. So anyway, here it is about the call. The Zetas talk about what the call is in human equivalents. The call. Anyway, it says, the call. The concept of the call is but an extension of concepts humans are familiar with. Let's see. When given the call to aliens, humans are issuing a request for contact. Without a voice, without words, but the meaning is sent and understood nonetheless by telepathic and other such wordless and wireless means. Well, anyway, okay, it was this person on the David Icke forums. Actually, that one woman, what's her name? Dana Donlin or whatever. She's the one that told me about the call. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that is like... Because back in 2004, I kept talking to what I thought was like my spirit guides. I thought it was my spirit guide. And the aliens kept coming forward and answering the call. Like, I kept asking my spirit guide, like, what I was in my past life. And then I kept having all these experiences. And, you know, so yeah, they kept answering my call back then. But I thought it was my spirit guide or whatever, giving me those experiences. So that is very, very true phenomenon, the call. And a lot of people are doing it just unintentionally. Well, now I do it intentionally, and then I get out-of-body experiences and stuff. Like with Joel. Joel gives me great sex. But anyway, so, yeah, so back then, when he ate all those refried beans, you know, I was having thoughts, you know, back then, like, is he going to die of a heart attack? Is that going to be bad for him, eating all that lard? And, okay, so then, when I moved back home, you know, 2 years later or whatever, or 2.5 years later, I brought Blacky with me. And I probably only had him for about a year, maybe a little less. And, so I was outside playing. I'm sorry, I wasn't playing. I was outside walking this was 1997. I was outside walking my dog, the Beagle, down the street. And I saw Blacky in the front yard, before I walked down the street with Julie, the Beagle. And Blacky was playing with that ball that I took from the McDonald's, from the Playland. He was playing with it in the front yard. And he was like fine and everything. Okay, so then when I came back from walking, and this was late at night, like 8 o'clock at night in the summertime. And then when I came back from walking Julie down the street, it was like 8:30. And I was like, Mom, where's Blacky? Because he was just in the front yard, you know, 30 minutes previous, you know, playing with that ball. And so then, finally, you know, a few minutes later, we found him collapsed at the bottom of the step. It's like he maybe felt a flinch in his heart, and it scared him, and so he darted to the back door to run up the steps, because that's where my bedroom was, and that's where he pretty much lived. That's where I kept him, was in my bedroom, and I let him go outside. So he mainly stayed outside and in my bedroom, and he was awesome, because he would let me know when he wanted in. He would come to the screen door and scratch, 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 and he even did that at the apartment. When I decided I was going to keep him and stuff, he did that at the apartment too. Okay, so anyway, when I found him, he was dead. But when I picked him up, he was just freshly dead, because he was still really soft. He was warm and soft, and a little bit of blood dripped out of the corner of his mouth, the right side of his mouth. And actually, my brother was over here to the house too, and he was over in the other part of the yard. And so I started like screaming at him, like, "What the freaking F happened to my cat?" You know, and I was like, "Tony," and so anyway, we took him to the vet, and the vet said that he probably had a heart attack, and that it doesn't happen very often, but cats can have a heart attack. And so anyway, so after that, I don't know how long it was after that, but I did start thinking, about those refried beans that he ate, that big old pan of refried beans, 2 years previous or whatever. 2 years, year and a half, 3 years previous, something like that. I mean, so when Blacky died, like I say, he was probably no older than about 2.5, something like that. Yeah, I think he was about 2.5 to 3, maybe even just 2 years old. But he was very young, and he was an awesome cat. And his name was Blacky, and that's Blacky. But yeah, so anyway, it wasn't until, I don't know, I guess a couple years ago, I started thinking about it, how the aliens could have killed my 2 cats, because they could have came and answered my call, like the bad aliens. Or, because they answer my calls all the time in the astral, like I'll be thinking about something, thoughts, worries, whatever, and they mock that in my out-of-body experiences and virtual reality experiences and lucid dreams and dreams and out-of-body experiences and virtual reality experiences, all that. They mock all that in the astral, in the dream state, in the sleep state. So they could also be answering calls in the physical. So but anyway, both these 2 cats, in my opinion, it's anomalous that they died. It's anomalous. And so anyway, but it could just be that they just somehow, or that it was just already programmed, in this reality for those 2 cats to die like that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they just, because the aliens programmed this reality like it's a virtual reality simulation, like a computer program. So they maybe already programmed it like that for both my 2 cats to die, And like I say, they both were kind of anomalous. And so, or like I said, maybe they, directly somehow killed both of my 2 cats in 3D based upon my call, my unintentional call, because I was like, because I had already was worried when he ate the whole pan of black-eyed peas. I was like, shit, that can't be good for his heart, eating all that lard and shit. And as far as I remember, it didn't give him diarrhea or anything like that. But you know what I'm saying? So there, the aliens are getting into they live in your brain, basically. They know your every thoughts and stuff, and they could have maybe thought I was placing a call to them or whatever. And it was unintentional, so to speak, because because I was having all those thoughts about how my cat, how the refried beans couldn't be good for his heart and all that. And then, 2 years later, my cat ends up dead. And then, a few days after that, I started thinking, I wonder if those refried beans, killed him or whatever. So anyway, I know it's kind of weird and some people probably don't understand the concept. But, so basically I made an unintentional, call to the aliens, and then the bad ones came forward and killed my cat by technology or whatever. Because, he was young, he was awesome. He's not going to die of a freaking heart attack at age 2.5. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, it could just be, it was already programmed like that in this computer simulation. Because supposedly, we live in a computer simulation. Or they directly murdered my cat. But, okay. So, but yeah, that's very true, the call. And like I say, the woman on David Icke Forum, she's the one that mentioned that. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, that's so true. By this woman called Nancy Leader or whatever. she's really old now. I don't know if she's even still alive. But so okay, so that was in 1997. Okay, and like I said, I already had all these pre-thoughts and worries before my cat ended up dead, 2 years later. It may not have been 2 years later, maybe a year later. But I mean, when I found him as a stray cat around the apartment complex, he was probably no older than, he probably was not even, I don't know, he's probably like a year old. And then, like I say, I don't know, it was maybe 6 months later I moved back home. Well, no, all I know is I had been seeing him for about a year or 6 months before I decided I wanted to keep him. And then, like I say, it was a year after that. Well, anyway, this cat was young, no older than like 2 years old, maybe 2.5. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he wasn't even 3. But, so anyway, the second experience about my cat was Paddy. Paddy was an awesome cat. She was she was an empath. She was very psychic and an empath, and I'll probably never have another cat like her. And I also talked to her telepathically one time, and she got my message. Because I told her, aren't you going to come in here and sleep with me on the bed? Because at that time I had 2 other cats. And she was used to, being like the only cat or just with that one cat, Stubbles. And then I brought Bobby into the house. So then there was 3 cats at my apartment back in 2004. There's 3 cats. So she stopped sleeping on the bed. So one time I telepathically was like, Paddy, aren't you going to come sleep with me on the bed? Because I had, 2 other cats at the time. And finally, she came in there and slept with me. She got my message. But yeah, she was very telepathic. And, because she kind of, steered away since I had 2 other cats. And Bobby was a real asshole. He's still alive, but he's 13, almost 13 and a half now. Okay, so Paddy, so then, she died at about the age of 9 or 10. Well, about 10 years old, but not quite 10 years old. Because I got her in 2001, 9, 10. Yeah, she was about 10 years old, or 10 and a half, when she ended up dead. Okay, so in 2010, I moved back from Texas to here, and I lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment. And there was a street in the back, a very small street, and people couldn't really go fast if they wanted to because it was just a very short street. But I lived on the corner, and I always had worries, like, that corner, like I always had worries in my head thinking that corner may be unsafe, because I would let Paddy out off and on by herself, and she would just go hide under the shed where the maintenance people put the lawnmower and stuff. And she's always been afraid of cars, so she knows to stay away from cars. Well, anyway, and I still do not know what happened to her. I do not know. I do not know if she got hit at a slow rate of speed by a car. I do not know that. And like I said, she could have been killed by technology, by the aliens. Okay, so in 2010, I only had her for, at that time when I moved back here, I only had her from February to June, and around June 9th, she died of 2010. So when I moved back here, I was only able to be with her from February, 4 freaking months, and she fucking died. Otherwise, she would still be alive. She would be old, but she would still be alive in this house. Well, actually, she still is alive. And I did catch her in an orb. It looked just like her in an orb back in 2011 when I was snapping pictures before I even knew the aliens were in my life. So she's in this house, just in spirit form. Yeah, so anyway, so I always had these worries, that Paddy, that, maybe a car could come around the corner and, hit Paddy or whatever. I always had those thoughts because I lived on a corner right there. But like I say, cars cannot go fast. You know, it's a very, very short street. They can't really go fast. You know, around the corner, they can't go fast even in the long strip of parking lot or driveway, whatever you call it. Okay, so anyway, so I always had those thoughts, and the aliens, you know, are always in your brain listening to those thoughts. So I don't know if I maybe... Okay, so anyway... Okay, I gotta hurry up. Okay, when Okay, so the day around... It was a Friday. I called in sick at work on a Friday. And I already let Paddy out at 10 o'clock, or about, let's see. Yeah. I had already let her out at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was very warm that day. It got to like at least, you know, 90s that day. So I let her out at 10 o'clock, and I let her back in at 11 o'clock. Okay, and then, okay, so then around 2 o'clock, she was begging to go outside. And I was like, Paddy, you know, I really don't want to let you outside. It's kind of hot out there now. So she was begging to go outside again. But like I said, I had already let her out from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So I let her outside. I finally let her out at 2 p.m. And I know when she died. She died because my psychic abilities already told me she died at 2:45 p.m. Even though I did not find her until 10 minutes after 6 p.m. And this was a Friday around June 9th in 2010. And so when I finally found her, she was not in the street. I mean, she was not in the parking lot. So I don't know. Like I say, I do not know if somebody moved her. But I could just speculate that somebody maybe hit her at a low rate of speed, and they picked her up and they put her over there in front of my car on the on the grassy curb. She was in the grass on the curb, you know, near my car, in front of my car, because that's where I park my car. But like I say, I know she died at 2:45, and like I say, at 6, I know this is kind of weird, but this is almost like a virtual reality experience or something in 3D or something. I don't know, it's just weird. Okay, so then when I picked her up, I could tell she had been dead for a long time, you know, because she was very, very stiff. And you can tell a dog had lapped at her. She was really, really wet on her neck. She had been lapped at like a dog had lapped her up and down. She had a bunch of saliva on her. And so when I found her at 10 after 6, you know, I was just like fucking freaking out. And there's a little dippy young girl, a college student that lived in the back of me that had a big old dog, and she was out there playing with it in the driveway, playing football with it, you know, throwing a football or whatever it was back and forth. And at first, naturally, I thought that dog killed Paddy, you know. I don't know, some kind of big old red lab dog or orange lab dog. And I thought, because naturally, you know, I made the connection, you know, okay, dead cat. And then I see a big ass dog over there. And I could tell a dog had lapped and lapped and lapped at her. So I thought the dog maybe killed her. So anyway, come to find out, they were a bunch of cocksuckers. The maintenance man was like Russian, and he like freaking tried to come into my house, you know, barge into my house. You know, when I was like at home, like at 6 o'clock, and I'm thinking, you dumbass, I'm sitting here, you know, trying to exercise on my trampoline, you motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, they think they fucking own the place. It's like, bitch, you can't just be coming up in on me, you know? You know, I mean, come during the day, you stupid bitch, you know? Come during the day, you know, when I'm gone, and change the fucking filter or whatever. Fucking dick. Okay, so anyway, naturally, I thought the stupid bitch, her fucking fat-ass dog, killed my cat. And so I knocked on the door and everything, and she was just like, I don't know. But now I realize that dog did not kill my cat. I think the dog lapped at her. The dog lapped her up and down after she died, because that's why because it was a sweet dog. I could tell it wasn't a vicious dog. But naturally, you see a dead cat at 10 after 6, and then you see a big old ass dog over there, you're going to make the connection that dog maybe killed my cat, you know? Okay, so anyway, so, oh, Paddy, I love you, baby. And that's not Paddy, but it looks just like her. Paddy, well, she's just right here in the picture with my mom, but, anyway, when I picked her up, a little bit of blood came out of the corner of her mouth, and to me, it kind of looked like her neck was kind of broken. Kind of looked like her neck was kind of broken, but like I don't know, you know. I mean, because when you die or whatever, I guess you're gonna be, I don't know, all soft everywhere or whatever. So like I say, both times, both cats had a little bit of blood coming out of the side of their mouth, the right side of their mouth. And but of course, when I found Paddy, she had already been dead for almost 3 hours, or almost 4 hours. So she was really stiff when I found Paddy. And so anyway, and also between when I realized I couldn't find her, whenever I went outside to try to find her, 3 o'clock, whatever, I'm like, where is she? Where is she? Because I had already let her out at 2 o'clock. Well, anyway, my psychic abilities did tell me she died at 2:45, which would make sense because by the time I found her, she was dead for quite some time. For almost 4 hours. And anyway, so at the same time, between the hours of like 3 to 6 or whatever, or 3 to 10 minutes after 6, I was asking my spirit guide, is she dead? Is she dead? And she kept saying yes. And it was kind of freaking me out because I kept asking her, like, did she die? And she would say yes. And I'm like, what? It did kind of freak me out. And then, at 10 minutes after 6 p.m., she really was dead. And like I say, I mean, most dumbasses, if they hit, especially at that skank-ass apartment complex, most people hit a cat, they're not going to turn around and go pick it up and go stick it, on the grassy curb. They're probably just going to leave the cat in the fucking parking lot. You know what I'm saying? Unless it was somebody that really felt bad that they hit my cat, and they probably heard a big thud, like, oh my God, I hit a cat. Then they got out. I mean, who does that? Nobody does that. Because everybody's under mind control, and they're all pure fucking evil to be under, to act the way they do. Most people aren't thoughtful like that. And that's just a fact, So anyway, like I say, I'm only speculating that she got hit by a car. I'm only speculating that somebody got out and moved her and stuck her, It wasn't exactly in front of my car, but that's in the same general area that I park. The same general area. And, in any one of those 3 parking spaces, and Paddy was right there in front of that general area in the grassy curb. So, like I say, I'm just speculating all of that. So I don't know. I don't know if the aliens killed both my cats. But I think it's possible because both times it was anomalous. Both times perfectly healthy cats come up dead with blood coming out of the left side of their mouth, the exact same corner of their mouth, left side of their, or right side of their mouth, whatever it was. And both times I already had these preconceived pre-thoughts, pre-worries, pre-thoughts, pre-worries about both my cats. And then in the future, they end up dead. But yeah, so look up answering the call, because it's very true. You can intentionally, ask or intentionally make a call, or you can unintentionally by your thoughts or whatever. Thoughts, worries, whatever. And like I say, the aliens are always listening. And some of the aliens, are good and some are bad. So like I say, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they both if they murdered my cats. If they murder cows, they can murder a cat. You know what I'm saying? And there really are some really bad ones out there, some bad aliens. But they probably can't get through to this dimension very often. you know, the ones that are bad and have all this technology and stuff, you know, they may not be able to, but they maybe got lucky, you know, came through, killed my cats. But, you know, in their mind, maybe they don't even think that that was a bad thing. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? To murder 2 cats in this dimension. But anyway, it's just kind of weird, you know. But like I say, you know, like, I don't know. But it was freaking me out, you know, when I kept asking my spirit guide. I kept like running into the bathroom and getting my little pendulum or whatever, and I'll be like, Zon, like, is Paddy, did she die? Is she dead? Like I say, because from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I'd be yelling for Paddy, 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 where are you? Where are you? And then finally I find her 10 minutes after 6 p.m. and there she is, you know, dead. And like I say, I know she died right at 2:45 p.m. 45 minutes after I let her outside. And but wow, that really does look just like Paddy. It really does. Yeah. So I don't know, man. But those experiences were kind of anomalous, you know, because I mean it wasn't just one cat; it was 2 cats. Over 2 different years, you know, kind of under weird circumstances. And both cats were very, very healthy. I mean, both cats were very, very healthy. And of course, when I took her to the vet, when I took Paddy to the emergency room vet, you know, she was just like, she probably got hit at a low rate of speed, you know, by a vehicle. Which, you know, which is still possible. But anyway, Paddy, here's Paddy. This little Paddy. I don't know if you can see it. That's Paddy. Sweetheart. So anyway, like I said, I think there's just a lot of unexplained crap, but normally all that unexplained crap equals aliens. Okay, well, thanks for listening.